안녕하세요. 글로벌융합학부 홍주아 교수입니다. Hi, I'm Jua Hong, a professor in the School of Convergence who studies the social implication of human-AI interaction. Today, I'm going to talk about our trust in AI. These days, AI is so embedded in our daily lives that it really feels like it's everywhere. Almost everyone's using it in some form. Particularly with tools like ChatGPT becoming mainstream, it's hard to find someone who hasn't at least heard of AI, which makes it even more important to think about our trust in AI. Personally, I categorize AI trust into two types. One, trust in the content information AI provides, and two, trust in AI as an independent agent making decisions or taking actions on our behalf. When it comes to trust in AI-generated contents, I think one of the most commonly discussed topics is deepfakes. For instance, in March 2022, a deepfake video falsely showing Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky announcing Ukraine's surrender to Russia circulated online. Though quickly debunked, the incident highlighted the danger of AI-generated disinformation during wartime. And there have been so many deepfake problems like this. But what I see as the greatest threat is not the increasing credibility of false information, but rather the declining credibility of true information. When trust in factual information erodes, people become more susceptible to confirmation bias. In other words, when looking at true information that contradicts their belief, they're more likely to dismiss it as a conspiracy or fake news. The problem is that while false information can potentially be discredited through fact-checking based on fact, there are very limited means to restore trust among those who have already lost faith in true information. In democratic society, decision-making relies heavily on the majority's choices based on shared information. However, when individuals' perception and interpretation of information diverge too widely, the effectiveness of such majority-based system can be significantly undermined. So, what would be the solution of this deepfake problem? Like it or not, I believe the only practical response at this point is the use of AI to counter AI. As the production and dissemination of fake news become increasingly automated and sophisticated through AI technologies, it is realistically very difficult for humans alone to identify and respond to it in real time. Therefore, we're now in a structured system where the problems created by AI can only be effectively addressed using AI systems of comparable technological sophistication. At this moment, the most practical means of response lies in leveraging AI for detection, verification, and the suppression of fake information dissemination. Of course, they are limited on multiple fronts. From technical perspective, generation and detection technologies evolve in tandem. One of the most well-known approaches to enhancing generative AI performance is the use of generative adversarial network, in which a generator and discriminator compete and improve together. In the same way, as more advanced detection models emerge, generative models also evolve to evade or neutralize them. Moreover, the risk of mistakenly identifying real news as fake cannot be overlooked. Such errors can undermine trust in the entire AI-based detection system and, in the long run, may lead to users losing confidence in AI-related outcomes altogether. Apart from technical limitation, the more fundamental issues lie in how people see AI decisions. Users with strong confirmation bias are less likely to trust AI-generated results that contradict their existing belief and may even react against them. In the end, regardless of how technically accurate the AI may be, earning trust and acceptance may be an even greater challenge. For instance, I examined how people perceive the credibility of AI-generated news articles compared to those written by human journalists, while also considering the influence of political orientation differences. Interestingly, people tend to view AI as less biased than human journalists, yet they still prefer news written by humans. Moreover, when a news outlet's political stance significantly differs from their own, people are less likely to trust the article, even if it was written by AI. Moreover, when a news outlet's political stance significantly differs from their own, people are less likely to trust the article, even if it was written by an AI. This suggests that while AI may be perceived as more objective, trust in news content is still heavily influenced by exterior factors like political alignment. On the other hand, machine agents deliver information and promote social messages as social media influencers these days. For example, there's a virtual influencer called Kami who has Down syndrome and was designed to represent the community in a positive light. But at the same time, some critics have raised concerns that this kind of representation could still lead to issues around exploitation, depending on who's creating the character and controlling it. To explore how trust is affected when the racial identity of a virtual influencer differs from that of its creator, we conducted an experiment. We found that people tend to place more importance on creator's race than the virtual influencer's race, although there was an interaction effect between the two. Additionally, we discovered that the extent to which people perceive social agency from the virtual influencers plays a crucial role in shaping their trust. You can see from these that how people come to trust AI-generated or delivered information is quite complex. While people easily become gullible, they also easily become critical. Fortunately, several companies are already implementing measures to tackle these challenges. For example, some are working to increase transparency by labeling AI-generated content and clearly disclosing its source so users can check its credibility better. Others are reorganizing how information is displayed, placing verified content more prominently to reduce the spread of misinformation. But we still need stronger efforts from both the industry and the regulatory bodies to address these challenges more responsibly and proactively. Okay, now let's shift gears and talk about AI being an independent agent. With the rise of transformer-based generative AI, we start to see a real shift in how people perceive these systems, not just as tools, but as social actors. And it's not just individuals. Society at large is beginning to treat AI as more human-like being with the ability to take on various social roles. For example, in 2023, Nature included ChatGPT in its Nature's 10 list, which was the first time a non-human entity was recognized among people who significantly influenced science that year. This acknowledgement reflects ChatGPT's profound impact on science research and communication as an actor. Similarly, in 2017, Saudi Arabia granted citizenship to Sophia, making her the first robot to receive legal personhood. As AI becomes increasingly human-like and begins to take on many different social roles, there are some growing calls to grant certain rights or responsibility to AI. However, current AI systems seem to lack the social independency to be considered legitimate bearer of such rights and duties. Particularly, critical issue is whether AI can be held accountable or subject to punishment when it makes harmful or unethical decisions. Of course, these discussions are based on the current capabilities of AI, but as the technology continues to advance and become more human-like, potentially equipping capacities for emotional understanding, self-awareness, and more judgment, the discourse about its legal and ethical status is also likely to evolve in new directions. For example, the recognition of animal rights began when animals started to be seen not merely as objects, but as beings with a certain degree of similarity to humans. In the same vein, I believe that since artificial intelligence continues to develop human-like qualities, it is surely possible that similar discussion around robot rights could emerge. In the future, as AI becomes increasingly human-like and the boundary between humans and machines grow more ambiguous, I believe the process of integrating AI into society will resemble the way immigrants are socially accepted. Even if AI attains ontological similarity to humans, people are still likely to perceive it as fundamentally different other. This perception could inevitably lead to a form of discrimination, potentially accompanied by both direct and indirect form of violence. However, humans have a natural tendency to anthropomorphize, that is, to perceive non-human entities as having human-like qualities, which means they may also feel sympathy or develop ethical concerns when witnessing discrimination or violence toward machines. This could eventually lead to discussion about granting certain rights to AI. However, such a shift will occur only if AI becomes highly human-like in appearance, decision-making, and behavior. On the other hand, if machines evolve in a form that are significantly different from humans, while it is less likely to happen, the discourse around AI may not develop. I believe we are currently in a transitional phase where perception of AI are shifting from a purely instrumental view to a more social and agentic perspective. While many still tend to regard AI as a tool, there is a growing number of cases where people form emotional and social relationships with AI. From a long-term perspective, as AI becomes increasingly human-like, the traditional dichotomy between humans and machines will gradually change. This is not merely a matter of technological advancement, but as a deeper question about how far humans are willing to extend the boundaries of social relationships. On the other hand, as AI becomes more agentic and autonomous, there's a growing concern that companies are sidestepping responsibility by blaming the AI itself when things go wrong. For instance, Amazon deflected responsibility for its sexist AI hiring tool by portraying the system as an autonomous agent that had taught itself to prefer male candidates based on historical hiring data. By framing the bias as a product of AI's independent learning rather than design choices, the company distanced itself from accountability for the discriminatory outcomes. Similarly, Meta deflected responsibility for its AI, falsely claiming that the Trump shooting did not happen by labeling the response as a hallucination. By framing the misinformation as a technical glitch rather than platform accountability issue, Meta distanced itself from direct responsibility for the content produced by its AI. Such cases reveal how companies can elude responsibility by AI, attributing it to AI instead, underscoring the need for regulations that prevent this deflection and ensure accountability for AI performance. Additionally, just because AI is capable of performing a certain task doesn't necessarily mean that people will choose to delegate that task to it or trust its ability to do so. For example, even if AI demonstrates strong or even better medical performance, would you trust AI doctor the same way you trust a human doctor? Trust in AI isn't just about performance. It's a much more complex issue shaped by a range of different factors. Overall, I think there are many layers to consider when we talk about trusting AI as an independent agent. It's not just about what the technology can do, but also how people perceive its intention, reliability, and alignment with human values. Well, some might ask, why be so cautious about trusting AI? What's the harm? One recent study found that frequent over-reliance on AI tools is negatively associated with critical thinking, especially among young users due to cognitive offloading. This underscores growing concerns about the cognitive consequences of over-reliance on AI and highlights the need for strategies to maintain critical engagement. Similarly, another longitudinal study from OpenAI and MIT found the frequent interaction with AI was linked to increased emotional dependence, greater loneliness, and reduced interaction with real people. The finding underscores the concerns that growing trust in AI chatbots, especially those perceived as emotionally supportive, may unintentionally foster over-reliance and hinder healthy social connections. The truth is, while AI can be incredibly powerful and efficient, placing blind trust in it can have real consequences, especially when it comes to misinformation, decision-making, or even reinforcing existing biases. In conclusion, trust in AI is shaped by more than just its technical capabilities. It is deeply influenced by human factors such as perceived bias, source credibility, and personal values. As AI becomes more integrated into our society, understanding the psychological and social dimensions will be key to designing systems that are not only intelligent but also trusted. That concludes my lecture today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.